I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everybody, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Commanders podcast. This is your guy, KDot, rolling solo dolo here for this particular episode, doing a week 6 preview of the Washington Commanders Atlanta Falcons game coming up. Now, probably wondering, well, before I get into anything, just want to let you guys know, if you love our podcast, you love Dish Divided, just make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, make sure you comment like all of our Dish Divided family does a great job of doing, liking, and more than anything, sharing this shit. Make sure you tell everybody, all your friends, all your family, anybody you know that's a Commanders fan or a Commanders hater that might want to listen to something, this good quality audio gold that we're giving you, and on YouTube, also the video gold. So here. Everybody realizes I'm rolling solo dolo here. Our guy Amit is not here. He won't be here for a little while. I mean, anybody that's followed the podcast kind of knows that Amit has a bit of an alter ego, a guy named A-Train, and he's been running amok all from Old Town Alexandria all the way to Clarendon and everywhere in between. So Amit's doing a little hiding out right now. Trying to make sure he doesn't get any charges. If he does, I think you might not see him until the statute of limitations break, but let's hope that the Northern Virginia police can't figure out what our guy was doing, and everything will be okay. Now, the 2023 Atlanta Falcons, who our Washington Commanders are playing, after that Commanders' absolute fucking shit show that was the game against the Chicago Bears, but hey, you've already seen the last episode where we did the entire breakdown of that. Well, 2 episodes, Amit's immediate aftermath episode, and then we had our regular episode last Friday. But these Atlanta Falcons, looking at this team going into this year in a very, very weak division, I don't know if anybody really thought too much of them. I think overall, you look at some of the pieces they made over the course of this offseason, especially more than anything, Bijan Robinson getting there and getting drafted in the first round. He's been I wouldn't say a revelation, but he's kind of lived up to the hype, right? Beyond that, they went with full-time starter in Desmond Ridder, who started a few games at the end of last season. If you watched NFL or Netflix's show Quarterback, you saw what was happening with Marcus Mariota. Then they made the switch to Ridder. I think in a very weak division, nobody really thought much of them, but they could be fun to watch, right? Right now, they sit tied for second, I believe, in the NFC South, right below the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers at 3-1. Then you got the Atlanta Falcons and the Saints sitting there at 3-2, with the Bucs having the bye week last week. So we want to give you the full breakdown like I would typically, or I want to give you the full breakdown like we typically would. So want to go through the different positions, let you know what's what. So we'll start like Commanders offense versus Falcons defense, the Commanders defense versus the Falcons offense. Keep it as normal as possible. Then we'll get to the comment mailbag, things like that. But yeah, so that was your initial preview of the 2023 Atlanta Falcons. And everybody here kind of knows what the Commanders have done. So let's get into the position previews. So Commanders offense versus the Falcons defense. Falcons defense is kind of unheralded in the league right now. I don't think a lot of people are talking about them, but they are a top 10 defense. Not really a whole lot of names jumping out at you. I mean, probably some names that you recognize if you look through the roster, like Jesse Bates, Grady Jarrett, Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree. They have a few guys, but overall, it's just the unit itself has done a really, really good job of kind of staying pretty stout this year. I mean, ones might look over their schedule or anything, but hey, you play who you play. We play the Chicago Bears. You saw how that went. So they've been doing a damn good job. Jesse Bates there has 3 interceptions there on the year. And they, more than anything, other than being top 10 on defense overall, a main thing that they're really, really good at is being a defense on third down. They are 5th ranked in the league on third down defense. Now, you look at the Commanders' offense. Look, you remember last week what it is we did in the Chicago Bears game. There came that period of time where we had, the 55 dropbacks without a design run. I don't think that's necessarily going to work against this team. Now, you think, all right, so where is it that they're necessarily weak or where is necessarily strong that we could exploit? And I can't really tell. I don't know. You can even see when the Atlanta Falcons played the Houston Texans last week. I know Houston was kind of becoming a sexy pick with C.J. Stroud and who they have on offense. They did a damn good job of keeping them kind of buttoned up. I mean, overall, there's not a team that is really heralded as far as like we got Jesse Bates who has a 3 interceptions. They have a whole lot. They don't have a whole lot much after that. Overall, their defense has 5 sacks on the entire year, whereas our team gave up 5 sacks to the Chicago Bears last week alone. I think we're just not entirely sure what we're going to see with this Commanders offense against these guys, right? Like, you know that they're an overall good defense, but then you overall know that, like, we've struggled on third downs at times, whether it be third and short, we're not sure exactly what to do, whether it be do a trick play, or a lot of times in situations where we're not in third and short because second down goes so wrong, or we're getting sacks or turnovers in which we don't even have the opportunity to do anything. If I'm really looking at what the Commanders' offense has to do is to keep a balanced attack against Atlanta. I think they're going to be pretty stout against everything. I think this is one of those games in which you have to kind of stick to what you know and not make the mistakes, not make the mental errors that we're usually making. Being more stout on the offensive line. The stupid holding penalties at certain points or giving up the sacks, whether it be the offensive line fault or Sam Howell's fault, or overall just the offensive scheme, the way in which we're not necessarily using the run to set up the pass when we're passing the entire time. You've heard people in the media, at least some of the other team, some of the players on other teams, if we played them and they get talked to in the press conference, talk about how we're kind of predictable. I know that people have been looking at Andrew Wiley, kind of specifying him more than anything. I'm not looking at PFF grades for anybody as far as on the offensive line because I can see with the eye test, it just doesn't look as good as anything that the PFF is saying. But if we're a team that is going to allow the Chicago Bears, who are not known for having anything good on defense, to get 5 sacks against us, what can I necessarily expect against this Atlanta Falcons team? I would just say you need to make sure that you're aware of them. I think that what you can't do is overlook them. I think that Eric Bieniemy should spend this long week that we've had with the Thursday night game, having those extra days to prepare for this one. I think more than anything, they need to start out hot and on fire. I don't want to be in a position where we get one-dimensional because we're down by a lot. I mean, we'll get to we'll get to our defense against their offense, which might be a tall ask, but I just think right now for us, we need to get back to. I say get back to, but I don't really even know if we've truly established who we are offensively, right? I look at the offense and just say you could do everything just a bit better. It feels as though Eric Bieniemy has kind of taken the offense from the Kansas City Chiefs and dropped it here in Washington, not taking into account the personnel that we have, right? You look at Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson barely get involved in games, right? They had one week where they got targeted a bunch, but then you get back to what I think Terry McLaurin's averaging something like 50 yards a game. That's unbelievable for a guy with that talent level. You need to get our playmakers more involved in things, and you need to stick to a cohesive game plan that operates with you have running backs in Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson who aren't world beaters, but they need opportunities to run. Brian Robinson has looked good in stretches. He's one of those running backs in which you look at as a bell cow running back that needs those carries to sort of sustain or get to a certain level. And it feels as though we never get into a situation in which he can truly get into a rhythm. And Antonio Gibson has looked good in spots as long as he's taking care of the ball, which I know also feels this year like it's a tall task. But we have to get that from them. We have to give them the opportunities to make things happen, to make things go. And I think right now, you look at anybody in the offense that's probably getting more opportunities than anything would be Logan Thomas, who, once again, installing the Kansas City offense here in Washington, it feels as though he's our version of Travis Kelce. And look, Logan Thomas, I appreciate him, love the dude to death. Especially appreciate the sacrifices he's made, like catching balls in the end zone stuff, with concussions, all the kind of shit. He's taken a beating, but he's not Travis Kelce. We have to operate in which we know we have a team that has some playmakers that are just not getting the true opportunities to do so. We have such an unbalanced attack with certain shots downfield to Dyami Brown, which I understand Sam Howell has a connection to UNC, but there are playmakers on the team that, I'm sorry, are better than Dyami Brown. Curtis Samuel, another guy that gets truly involved in the offense. I mean, Curtis Samuel's not somebody that I'm going to criticize entirely too much. I mean, now that he's healthy, he's looked a lot better. But Curtis Samuel, I mean, if I'm really looking at it, is the third best receiver on the team, at least in my opinion. Terry McLaurin is by far and large the best. He is in a top 10, skirting up one top 5 receiver that's just not getting the opportunities. Right now, you see all the quarterbacks that we have had in the past did a much better job of getting Terry McLaurin out. Now, I'm not throwing that on Sam Howell. I just think the offensive scheme itself is not doing a good job of getting our playmakers involved. And with that being the case, I don't know how to stack up our offense against the Falcons team. I can't look at one guy on one guy and say, all right, well, this guy, I just don't know because I don't feel as though the offense is giving everything that it can. Hopefully, with a long gap between our last game and this game and the embarrassment that it was there in that Chicago game, Eric Bieniemy and the offense comes out hot, comes out going, and I should say pause. Yeah, it sounded a little dirty. But I think what you need to I think if you know like a guy like Terry McLaurin who has that fire in his belly. Me and Amit were talking the other an episode or two ago about how when Eric Bieniemy was first hired, I remember Terry McLaurin went to the press conference and he told Eric how, oh man, I appreciate the heart coach and this and that. Get the guy involved. He's hungry. He wants to make plays, and he can make plays. Feed him the rock. Jahan Dotson was a revelation last year at receiver, and right now I can barely tell that he's on the field. Get the playmakers involved, and maybe something can happen. If we're getting the running game involved at a good clip, even sticking with it at some points when it doesn't work, it helps set up the play action. It helps set up other things for success. Don't let us get too one-dimensional that Atlanta can figure us out, and then they are going to take advantage of the fact that, look, 5 sacks all the year. Chicago got 5 sacks against us last week. I mean, I think Atlanta's got a much better defense. What do you put the over and under on sacks? 7, 8? We've got to do a better job overall. Sam Howell, I understand that he's got to make certain inroads, but we gotta play better fundamental football on offense. It just never looks like a full cohesive piece. Yeah, we're outscoring in certain standpoints of the team last year or the year before. Sam Howell looks pretty good, but he's got to shore up certain things, and I think more than any of that comes with the coaching. They need to set him up better for success. Now, moving on to the Commanders' defense against the Falcons' offense, and this is where, I get a little scared. Once again, we know what Chicago did against us on that Thursday night game. 40 points. It was butt-ass ugly. That defense that Chicago has, the offense that Chicago has kind of came alive against us. You know, in the Denver Broncos game, they had the 3 quarters that were looking pretty good, and then they lost out because Denver came back. I don't know about you guys, but I just watched Denver play against the Kansas City Chiefs. Jesus Christ, did they look bad. So, the Chicago Bears, they whooped our ass as far as offensively. DJ Moore, I mean, that was a problem. But if you look at now, we're coming against the Atlanta Falcons, and I'd say offensively, outside of the quarterback position, they are more talented than that Chicago Bears team. I mean, Desmond Ridder, he's been a guy who, coming into this season, I wasn't high on him at all. I would thought by now Taylor Heineke would probably be starting for Atlanta. But Desmond Ridder had a hell of a game last week against Houston. And Houston has a top 20 defense, better than ours, and he threw for 329 yards, had a touchdown, the quarterback rating of over 111. Damn good game for Desmond Ridder. People were calling for his benching. He proved at least I'm going to stick around for another time. And last week was sort of the coming out party for Desmond Ridder in a sense. He was ranked 27th in the league as far as sacks. Not as much as us, but he had 16 sacks going into last week's game against Houston. Houston, once again, like I said, top 20 defense, pretty good pass rush. No sacks. He took no sacks against Houston last week. Things are looking up. And we also know some of the other players that they have on that offense, just talented as all get out. I mentioned Bijan Robinson there in the open. The dude I can easily say that he is going to be the most talented guy on the field that we see play. And if the Washington defense acts like it has been acting over the course of this season, which we're 26th in the league against the run, Bijan Robinson up to last week was averaging 5.4 yards a carry. Against Houston, they were doing a pretty good job, kept pretty stout. They held in around 3-point-something. Tyler Algier, who's another guy that they have, he hasn't been really doing a whole lot, averaging around 3 yards a carry. But overall, those two guys, I mean, we've met up against other running backs that are kind of unheralded, some that are more talented. I don't think any more talented than Bijan Robinson, and we've been giving up major chunks. Once again, 26 ranked against the run. The Commanders' defense has to step that up. We've got to do a better job. if you look at the Chicago Bears game, it felt as though there was no real confidence or faith that Jack Del Rio had, and the defense really stopped that run. I think a lot of times when you saw those cases where our defensive backs were left in one-on-one situations with a DJ Moore and they were getting beat over top was because we were trying to slide more guys down the box to prevent the rushing attack. And then we were just getting beat. And the thing with Bijan, and here's the other thing, even when we slid those dudes down in the box, we still didn't do a phenomenal job against the run at times. It just feels like it's been a thing happening all season for us. We have to do a better job on defense stacking up against the run. I don't know what that is exactly or what it is that we would have to do other than the defense just playing better than they have been. We know that this defense is talented. Looking at the Atlanta Falcons as far as the talent they have on offense, you could look at the Washington Commanders and say, hey, they have some solid fucking talent on defense. It's just that it hasn't shown up in a very cohesive way. You've had Chase Young, who we've mentioned time and time again, and we've been kind of tracking him through this season, wondering whether or not he's going to get that contract extension. Chase Young is ranked very high as far as pass rush rate. I think he's looked damn good, but I think he's looked damn good as an individual. I think he's had some good moments in games. I think the defensive line overall, Daron Payne has had his moments this year. Jonathan Allen had his moments this year. Montez Sweat has had his moments this year. But if you have one or two of those guys having a moment every series, they might stop them on first down, stop them on second down, and then we get our asses kicked on third down because there's a blown coverage, or maybe on second down, they drop back, they hand off on a draw something, there's a gap, and then they're cut up, and then we're looking at third to short. They're just never necessarily set up to where the successes that they are having individually mean anything collectively to the overall defense. It just feels as though there's almost a every man for himself sort of atmosphere happening on the defense. And that's just not going to work. It doesn't work in the NFL. And I know overall for us, every single year within the Jack Del Rio defense, we've been starting out pretty slow and then getting to it as the season goes on. We're kind of past that point that we usually kind of kick it on, right? It's usually around week 4, week 5. We're looking at week 6. We gave up 40 points to Chicago Bears. Is it going to turn on? I don't know. One would say that I want to be a student of history and say, yeah, eventually, and I want to look at the defense and say, hey, these guys are talented. Maybe they can get it done. But they haven't shown me that they're capable of doing that yet. Whether it be the gaps that are existing there on the offensive line that are opening up the runs or allowing for quarterbacks to go get their yards or go get first down scrambling, or we just have one guy as far as the receiver in like DJ Moore just beat us. They got a guy in Drake London that is very fucking talented. I'm not going to go as far as to say that he's more talented than DJ Moore, but this dude could be a problem. And he's a guy who's a little bigger size-wise, pause again, and one thing we've seen as far as this Washington defense, especially, I don't want to pick on him, but Emmanuel Forbes, have had a problem tackling, or at least getting guys down initially. So you're looking at a lot of yards after contact for us, and that's just not going to cut it against this team. It's pretty fucking physical. So Drake London can have himself a day. Then beyond those two things, two of probably the most talented pass catchers they have outside of Bijan, who can also catch out of the backfield, and Drake London, is they got two tight ends that are worth a damn, Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith. I know overall, if you're a fantasy fan, or if you play fantasy football, Kyle Pitts has not been lighting it up at all. But if you look at last week, Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith, they put together a pretty damn good performance. I don't have the numbers offhand, but I think it was something like 154 yards and a touchdown together. And if you look at last week against Cole Kmet and the Chicago Bears, dude had 5 targets, 5 receptions, and a touchdown. Looked like when they looked to him and they wanted to make a play, it was there. If that's going to be the case with Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a long fucking day. And I hate talking like this because I know how talented the Commanders' defense is. And it just doesn't feel like they're doing anything. I go down this row of Atlanta Falcons in a weak NFC South, a team that I thought we should be able to easily look on the schedule and say, all right, that's a victory. It doesn't feel that way when you really start looking through the preview, right? We give up 32 points a game. This Atlanta Falcons offense is extremely talented. Whether or not Desmond Ridder is going to be the guy to reverse to the guy he was before the Houston game, Lord knows we need him to, or Lord knows we at least need to get to him to make that be the case. Desmond Ridder's still a pretty young quarterback. If I'm looking at keys to the game for the Commanders defense, other than playing just better, is get your hands on Desmond Ridder. Rough him up. Get some sacks. Chase Young, come on, make the pressure. Make him feel it. Get it to a point in which you are stacking that damn box and you challenge our secondary to say, hey, you're going to have to let Desmond Ridder try to beat us to that. And if he does, if Desmond motherfucking Ridder beats us, then we've got major issues, okay? Our defense should be talented enough to get through on this guy. But if we aren't, shit, let's go fucking back to the drawing board. I pick my poison to know that Bijan Robinson, that the offense is not going to churn down the time possession and run roughshod over us. Just from a standpoint of just after that Chicago Bears game to want to just if you want to man the fuck up and to make something happen, then you need to make sure that defense comes out firing on all cylinders and doing what it is they can to disrupt that Atlanta Falcons offense, which means stopping the goddamn run and letting Desmond Ridder try to toss that ball up. And our guys in the secondary need to step it the fuck up and get some goddamn interceptions and get some pass breakups. Do not let Drake London and those guys beat you. You are talented enough to make shit happen. You just haven't been playing that way. Get up, get better. Jack Del Rio, I'm looking at you. Coach them up. Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, you want to sit there on the sidelines during halftime and let the players talk amongst themselves? Do some goddamn coaching. Get these guys riled up. I don't want to see us coming out flat like we have in all these goddamn games. Get these dudes riled up and ready to fucking play. I think more than anything, it's just an attitude thing with this team. We can look at X's and O's, but the attitude is just not there. We saw it in glimpses the first couple weeks. You see Montez having fun. You see Chase having fun. I haven't seen them have fun in a little while. We've been giving up at least 30 points the last 4 fucking games. And these Atlanta Falcons will drop 40 fucking points of us if we're going to be asleep. And I'd like to think that this team has more pride in itself than to allow that shit to go down. Sorry, I got a little emotional. I know that I'm supposed to be the more level-headed guy, but hey, I don't have my guy Amit here to balance me out. So, yeah. All right, so that's Commanders' defense against the Falcons' offense. Once again, just play better. Overall, from making a prediction on this particular game, looking up as far as the lines here right now, gonna do this right here. I probably should have had this prepped and ready to go, but I'm just gonna do it here with you guys. Atlanta Falcons, they got them, god damn it, -2.5. And the over and under total, 42.5 points. So what do I think is gonna happen here in this game? Now, what I want to be able to say to you guys right now is that Washington will wake up, that they will be so embarrassed by what happened on the national stage last week against Chicago that there's no chance that that happens 2 times in a row. We are 2 weeks removed from taking the Philadelphia Eagles there to overtime. And I'm willing to admit, a lot of people gave me shit as far as them not going for 2 and me not having an issue with it. But hey, if they went for 2 and they won it, we'd be feeling a lot better about this goddamn game. But after the showing there in Chicago, I'm sorry, they've got to prove it to me again. I'm not making this prediction based on hope. I'm going to make this prediction based on what it is that I've seen recently from this team and whether or not I think they can beat the Atlanta Falcons. And my answer right here, right now, today is no. They need to prove it otherwise to me. So I'm picking the Atlanta Falcons to win. I'm going to go 23-20, so they just hit the over. 42.5, I got the score, and 43 points combined. But give me the Atlanta Falcons 23-20. I think overall this game probably will start out sloppy. If it's any indication the way it has been for us, probably a lot more sloppy on our end than it is the Atlanta Falcons. And then overall, we get one-dimensional as far as the passes. We are able to score a few times in the second half, but it's not enough because Atlanta just came out too on fire. And at that point, they're just riding on Bijan Robinson. They don't need to throw it that much anymore in Desmond Ridder's hands. And they think 23 points is enough to get them to victory. I don't want to believe this to be the truth, to be the case. I want to believe in the Commanders and that they're going to rally. But I'm at the point now, guys, you got to show it to me first. Now, here's also the segment of the podcast where I usually give you guys a betting parlay. And the only thing I'd say is when I'm looking through all the different bets or the lines here for this game, I would tell everybody to stay the fuck away from it. You could either be depressed as I am to a certain degree. Once again, overall, Dan Snyder's gone. Staying positive overall for the season. Just an evaluation year. Trying to see who's going to be here next year. Sorry, the Chicago Bears game kind of fucked me up a little bit. But when it comes to this team and the bets, I'd stay the fuck away. I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I can tell you what it is that I think based on my prediction on what I've seen recently from us. but I'm going to be hoping as all get out that I'm fucking wrong and they show something to us. So I'm not going to be, I'm not trying to lose any money. And the only person I'd probably bet on, and I'd probably say is a safe bet, is anything related to Bijan Robinson. He should feast. He should fucking feast if it's anything. But I'm not going to tell you guys to bet on Bijan Robinson because we're Commanders fans. Fuck. It makes it no fun to watch the goddamn game. All right, now we're going to move on to comment mailbag. Now, I'm going to stick to the comments that were on the podcast that me and Amit did together. I think it's only fair for me to leave the podcast that he did solo to answer those questions, and we'll see if he can answer them from overseas, maybe with a VPN, so law enforcement can't necessarily track what he's been doing. But let's go through the comments. So Tony P. Tony. Man, I love this channel. Thank you both for covering this disastrous team. Everyone should be fired. I just can't believe they left DJ Moore one-on-one against Forbes, Fuller, and Johnson with no help over the top after last week. I'm with you, Tony. I think, once again, kind of looking at it and looking at some of the All-22, it looks as though they really wanted to do what they could to stack against the run to some degree. It just did not work out. I don't know what's happening as far as the communication there on the back end, but you're right. If they saw early on that it wasn't working and it was working so disastrously, as you put it, as the team is, they should have done something differently. Amit, I know, has gotten upset about what it is they've been doing in Emmanuel Forbes, kind of casting him out there and then making him the scapegoat for stuff. And I'm with you guys. I think that Forbes, what they've been doing as far as rocking Forbes' confidence has been insane to me. There is one thing as far as having a young corner that you know is going to go through struggles, but we also seen recently there's been some cornerbacks that come out firing out the gate. Patrick Surtains, your Christian Gonzalez to a certain degree, but even your Sauce Gardner's there in New York. And if you see it not going well so early for him, and it's just compounding, and it gets to a point in which he has to even delete his social media, then maybe kid gloves might be what's needed. You'd like to think that's not the case for a first-round pick, but I mean, protect your investment. Protect the asset. If you need to switch up the way you're doing to make it better for him, then that's what you need to do. And I don't think that they're doing him any favors at this particular point in time. And I'm just hoping it's not too far, too gone as far as that goes. I really, really think that Forbes could be something special in this league. He's just got to get his mentals right. And I think, and I would hope that the coaching staff would do a better job of being there for him. Hey, Tom Banjo. Ron Rivera, what do? He is a useless statue out there that truly does not seem to know what is going on. It is not stoic. It is not confident. It is not class. It is embarrassing. I don't want to agree with you, although I do love the Ron Rivera, what do? I think me and Amit both said that at certain points in that podcast. It's an honest question. I don't know what he does. You're right. Nothing that I'm seeing. At one point, maybe during the Dan Snyder craziness era, I did look at some things that he was doing as more stoic and confident, and he's just this strong, resilient, silent type, right? No, it just doesn't seem like he's doing much at all, other than, like I said last week, yelling at the refs occasionally. I don't see him. He doesn't control anything on the offense. Jack Del Rio controls everything on the defense. He doesn't give his halftime speeches like he used to give in Carolina. What do? If you're more of the player personnel GM guy, then I can look at the picks that you've made and say, not too good a job, buddy. If you're responsible for everything we're having coaching staff-wise, Eric Bieniemy, still jury's out. I like him overall more than I don't like him. But Jack Del Rio, I think, has been a mess. And this week, when they've asked you if you're going to make any changes or whatever coaching-wise, nope, we're going to stick to it. You better fucking hope they turn this shit around. Otherwise, it's on you, Ron. It's on you. And I'll ask, what did you do? You fucked it up. Vindo, love you guys. We love you back, Vindo. We love you back. Ridge, where your helmet at? I think what we need to get JDR fired is to get torched by Taylor fucking London down there somewhere, Heineke. Well, Ridge, I was hoping that Taylor Heineke was going to be playing in this game too. I thought it'd be more fun, but he's not. It'll be Desmond Ridder. But I am hopeful. That last week the Atlanta Falcons and what they did with the Houston Texans was just an aberration. Desmond Ridder goes back to the guy that he has been before. And Washington has their get-right game. Washington has that game in which We get after it. Chase Young has his multiple sack game. You get Daron Payne and all those guys. They're high-fiving, doing the dances and shit. Maybe this is the game by the end of it. Taylor Heineke is out there after fucking Desmond Ridder throws 4 or 5 picks. I wouldn't put my money on it. Goddamn, I'm hoping for it. All right, I think that's it. This has been Dish Divided, a DC space. What is it? A DC sports podcast. More specifically, a Commanders podcast. I'm KDot, filling in solo for my man Amit. Have fun overseas, buddy. Duck the law, Interpol. Yeah, after the pod begins now. All right, I guess I should have done more as far as the share comment stuff at the end, but I think you guys get the gist, right? We've been saying it every week. I know they say it's important to say it every week, but yeah, we've been saying it every week. What do I want to talk about after the pod? I don't know. This might be the shortest one ever. What did I do this week? I saw a movie. I went and saw The Creator, Gareth Edwards movie with John David Washington. Movie about AI. I really appreciate it. I don't want to make any spoilers or anything. I don't know if anybody's really want to go see it, but I will tell you this. I enjoyed the hell out of the movie. It's not perfect. It's not flawless, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, overall, Gareth Edwards, director, responsible for what I think is the best Star Wars film of all time in Rogue One. Now, I'm a Star Wars, super fan. When I was married, my wedding band was actually a Battle of Hoth wedding band. I'm a Star Wars geek. But I will say that, I felt as though it was a really controversial thing at one point to say that Rogue One was better than Empire Strikes Back. It feels like blasphemy, right? But then when I realized as you get older, Star Wars mostly is for kids, which is why most Star Wars fans, when they're complaining about all the new shit that go on, you kind of want to tell them to shut the fuck up, because it's not for you, right? It's more for kids. And I think what Rogue One did was elevated the storyline to a level at which I'm an adult, and I'm like, I can appreciate this. Appreciate this. This feels a little more adult than the other shit, right? Same reason I feel so highly about Andor, the Star Wars show that was on Disney Plus, far and away. Mandalorian was really fun until last season, but Andor to me was outside of Succession, the best show on TV the last couple of years. But back to The Creator. Gareth Edwards is the director of this, same guy that did Rogue One. And I think more than anything, what you realize, if you can see it on IMAX or a really big screen or Dolby Cinema, please do so. The movie looks absolutely incredible. All the set designs, special effects, everything are just top notch. And I looked it up, and I heard that the budget for the movie was only $80 million. $80 million. Now, I know, to me, broke boy, $80 million is a lot of fucking money. But when you look at the numbers that they have for some of these TV shows nowadays, or movies, you look at anything Marvel's doing or Disney's doing as a whole, they need to fire everyone involved in all that shit and go talk to man Gareth about what the hell he did. Because this movie looks better than almost anything I've seen. Easily the best sci-fi movie I've seen looking-wise since Dune. Wish Dune Part 2 came out this year, but writer's strike and all that. Glad you guys are back. It was just an incredible looking movie. Just an amazing movie. And once again, there is something I want to talk about when it comes to the story of the movie, but I don't want to get in a position where I'm spoiling anything, so I'll leave that alone. I'll just tell you that I know that artificial intelligence is an extremely polarizing topic, and I think that I'm a sci-fi fan, and if you watch most sci-fi things, artificial intelligence is something to be leery about, to be worried about, right? Look at Terminator, or pretty much anything, Matrix, Ex Machina. AI never usually turns out well, but I'm a firm believer that AI is good. It just matters on who itself is running the AI. I think we get to evil corporations, all that, they could fuck it up, but AI itself, I think it's something we need to get used to, and I'm waiting for the great reckoning in which AI just takes over and it's everything. And to me, it's the next step in human evolution. And I can get deeper into it, but then I'm getting some philosophical shit. I'll just leave that alone. But another part of the movie, The Creator, that I did want to discuss, and it pains me to say this, but The Creator's leading star is one John David Washington. John David Washington, known in his own right. He was in the movie Tenet, Christopher Nolan's movie, Black Klansman, the Spike Lee joint. Also, the HBO show Ballers, which I thought he did a great job in that. He is the lead here in this movie. You want to say that he's known for those things, but he's also known, everybody's talking about Nepo babies. He's Denzel Washington's kid. And I am wondering, and I don't know if I'm alone. Please hit the comment section if you get this far in the video. I don't think he's that good, this actor. I just don't. I'm rooting for him. I like him. But his line delivery is so fucking weird, man. It just feels so unnatural. It takes me out of everything that he does. Like, there's probably the most well-known scene in Black Klansman, which I think won an Academy Award. I don't know what it was for, but it won something. But in that movie, he's pretending to talk like a white man on the phone, to David Duke of the Klansman. And he said, "Oh, it's about being a white." Like, it sounds like Stewie from Family Guy. And while it's played to comedic effect in the movie, I can't help but think that that's just the way he talks. Like, we laughed at it. It felt like a moment in the movie that'd be laughed at as far as vernacular, but it just feels like that's how he talks. I think he's an amazing physical actor. I'm not mistaken, he was a former athlete. I know he played college ball. I don't know if he made it to the pros, maybe a practice squad or something, but he played ball. And you could tell from a athleticism standpoint, he can act physically. I think that's an underrated thing in acting, is when you're running or you're jumping or you're doing it looks real. Not necessarily you're doing your own stunts, but just any of the physicality stuff looks real. I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. If you ever seen the movie War of the Worlds, he has to throw a baseball in that movie. It's some of the worst shit you've ever seen in your life. Tom Cruise is awesome. He can hang off of planes, climb up the Burj Khalifa. But Lord knows if you ask the man to throw a fucking baseball, he's incapable of doing it like a human being. Looks like he's never seen a baseball before. John David Washington doesn't have that issue. He is a natural athlete. When you see him in movies like Tenet running, it just feels as though there's a physicality to it that I think is underrated. It gets you to buy in. And that's why I was excited about The Creator. It felt like action movie. This is what it was going to be. But every time he's in a scene where there's dialogue, it's just rough. It's just rough. When I look at the movie Tenet, Robert Pattinson's just acting circles around him in any dialogue scenes. In this movie, Gemma Chan, who is popping up a lot of things, and I love her. She's great. One of my favorite movies of the last decade, or I don't know, maybe it's older than a decade now. It's Crazy Rich Asians. Fucking awesome movie, and she's great in it. She also popped up in the not so great Eternals, but I thought she was getting that too. And she was in a Steven Soderbergh movie, I think, not that long ago. But he just can't hang with them. He can't. And there are some moments where he has to emote. I think certain emotions work better than others. I don't want this to be a John David Washington hate fest, but goddamn, I mean, he's getting some opportunities out there, which I'm glad he's getting them. But there's some other guys around I'm wishing were getting the opportunities too. And I was talking to another buddy in another podcast that I do, All Sorts of Sports, also on YouTube, if you look it up. And we were talking about like other people that could have been in that movie. I think about Winston Duke, the guy that played M'Baku in Black Panther, was also the dad in the movie Us, the Jordan Peele movie Us. I think something like that. Big physicality guy, but he can emote and he can carry a conversation. He has that charisma. I think that right now John David Washington is just, it's not suiting him perfectly. There were some guys that I know would just be better in The Creator, like Jonathan Majors, of course, even with all the controversy, just a better actor, just overall better. Daniel Kaluuya, probably the best guy working right now. I'm more interested in his career maybe more than any other actor in Hollywood. I think he's making some of the most interesting choices. He would be awesome in that movie. I think Lakeith Stanfield is another guy that I think is amazing, although The Haunted Mansion, I will never watch that movie. That was a terrible choice, but he looks great in Atlanta, or was great in Sorry to Bother You, or Knives Out. I'd love to see him in a movie like this. Get Out, he was even in. I don't know exactly how it worked, but I'd like to see some of these guys get these leading opportunities in these big budget action movies. Well, I guess big budget in the scheme of non-intellectual property movies, like $80 million from something that's not a Star Wars, Marvel, Transformers property is pretty rare. But I just, am I being super critical of John David Washington? I'm being overly critical. Do I need to comment down a little bit? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. I don't know if this was any good. I know that I feel crippled without my guy Amit. He's the one that keeps me on track, you know? Sometimes you need somebody. I feel like, I'm not going to say I'm Batman. Clearly in this relationship on this, I'm the Robin. I'm the little bitch boy Robin of the group. But, Amit, be safe out there, bud. And I miss you. And, hopefully this episode wasn't too bad. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, drop some shit in the comments. Let me know what I need to do better, because I might be rolling. So I'm definitely gonna be solo for the after the game pod, and we'll see if I'm solo next week. Might get a guest on if the reception of this is pretty bad. Love you guys. Bye.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.